Welcome back to Mayo Clinic Radio. I'm Dr. Tom Shives.
And I'm Tracy McRae.
Well, according to the National Institutes of Health, there are about 3,000 people in the United States who are on the waiting list for a heart transplant on any given day. Now, wait times can vary from days to several months, and they depend on a recipient's blood type. They have to be matched to the heart that's available. And it also depends on how badly a person needs a new heart.
Jim Dunbar had his first heart attack in May of 2014. After a second heart attack, he got an artificial heart and began waiting for a transplant.
Well, he's here to share his story with us. Mr. Jimmy Dunbar, welcome to the program. Good to have you. You look so good.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Because I remember seeing you when you didn't look so good.
Yes, you did a couple operations on me also.
Well, we had to have some toes removed, and that, of course, was a little more difficult than the heart transplant, but they both went well.
Very good.
So let's go back to the beginning. 2014, you were generally healthy, right?
Yes, I was.
And you were at home, as I recall.
Yes, I just got home. I just got home from a walk, and I started to feel dizzy. And I was calling for my wife. Was next door at Richard Berger's house.
One of our colleagues.
One of her doctors. And she came over, and I fell down and started to have a heart attack. And he came over. He actually came over to the house, and he gave me CPR, and he brought me back to life.
What is it that you were feeling? Were you feeling upset stomach, or did you feel like that clutching Hollywood heart attack kind of thing?
No, that's the strange thing, because actually probably a month before I was having chest tightness, and I was being stubborn. I thought it was just muscle strain or something. I didn't have that. I just had dizziness, and I think my left arm straightened up, and then I just basically fell over.
Okay, so they got you to the hospital.
Got me to the hospital.
Determined that you had your heart stopped? Did they need to restart your heart, or was it still going?
Actually, I don't know. I know
Don't
that
remember?
the first heart attack, I was in the hospital. I was in the emergency room, and I keep hearing different versions of the story. But they brought me back, and they got me stable, and then they said we could do two things. We could do a stent, which is a simple procedure, just not cracking your chest open. And then the second option was to crack your chest open and do a bypass. And I was afraid of having my chest opened up, so I said, no, let's go through the stent. And they put the stent in. They said there's a 99% chance this stent will be fine. There's a 1% chance it will fail, and I was 1%.
And so you went home. You were in the hospital, a week or so?
I was probably in the hospital 3 days.
Okay. We went home.
Which I thought was forever.
Yeah.
And then I went home, and then I had my second heart attack.
How long after?
Probably 7 days later.
Really?
Yes. The stent failed. The stent bursted, I think. And I had my second heart attack, and that time I should have died. I mean, I should have been dead. I think they did CPR. The story is they did CPR on me for 45 minutes, which they're not supposed to do CPR for 45 minutes.
But you're worth saving.
But I actually.
So was your wife there?
A couple of doctors I knew, and they thought they should save me. Yes, my wife was there. I was down to the emergency room, and they brought me up to the cath lab. And actually, Dr. Guy Reeder, who's a cardiologist, he came in and he saw. I think it was. I can't remember his name. He was on top of the bed doing CPR on me, and
for 45 minutes.
For 45 minutes, and then Guy said, "Yeah, can I help out?" And he helped out, and I finally heard this part of the story. On that second heart attack, they did try to do a bypass. This time, they cracked me open. They did a bypass. They did, I think, 3 or 4 bypasses, and that didn't work either. So I was pretty much a goner.
So basically, your heart. They said, your heart's not salvageable.
My heart's not salvageable. Said they left me. Actually, they left me open, and so I was in. They kept calling it ECMO, and I didn't realize what ECMO was until one of my friends said ECMO is life support. So I was on life support for 14 days, and the only option I had was an artificial heart, and they put the artificial heart in me on I think May 17th. And then they did a CAT scan before just to make sure I wasn't brain dead, because that was a big deciding factor if I were to get an artificial heart. So they had brain activity, and they put the artificial heart in, and then I actually don't remember waking up until June 17th.
So this ECMO is extracorporeal circulation. So it basically does what your heart does, but there's a big machine there that your blood flows through, and it pumps it throughout your body. But you can't stay on that forever. So then you got a backpack with a motor in it.
Went to
right?
the Companion. You go to Big Blue, which is a big 450-pound compressor in their machine, and then you go down to we call him Little Gray. He's a Companion, and then you go to the Freedom Drive, which is the backpack, which you put on your back, you put on your shoulder. It's a backpack. It has a smaller motor, and then you have to carry an extra motor with you at all times in case that motor fails.
Oh my
Yeah, so
goodness.
he is carrying around what is functioning as his heart. And I remember you walking down the hall, and the thing would make noise. It go boom, 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 boom. Didn't
Well,
it?
you heard it in surgery.
Yeah, and,
'Cause I had to go
when I
with
was
me
in
all
your
over.
room, I said, "How do you sleep with that thing?" And you said, "Well, you get used to it." Boom, boom.
Kind of sounds like a
boom.
horror movie.
Well, and you don't want to forget your bag.
No, you shouldn't
don't want
do
to
that.
lose your backpack.
I just have to ask, do you have a family history of heart disease or?
Yes, my father had, I think he had his first heart attack in his 40s, and I was 49, so I thought I missed it, but it caught up to me.
It did. All right. So you've got the backpack heart that you're dragging with you everywhere, and didn't want that to be the rest of your life, evidently.
No, they say it's not a quality of life. It's like Dr. Shive said, it's very noisy, and it goes with you all the time, and it beats all the time, and people say, "Can't you just turn that off?" And they say, "Well, you really can't."
Well, not really.
I don't want to actually.
Yeah. So actually, people kept asking me, "Aren't you going to miss that noise?" And I said, I was really looking forward to getting rid of the noise, but actually, you do miss the noise a little bit because then if you hear that, you know you're
You know
alive.
it's going. Wow.
All right, so now you're on the heart transplant wait list.
Yes.
You're here in Rochester,
Yes.
and as I recall, it took a long time. What ultimately happened?
Well, I waited till December 27th or 28th, and I couldn't wait any longer.
That was
because
like 7 months or 6
It
months.
was like 8 months
8
because
months.
it was actually the first heart attack was in April. Then I had the transplant in May, so the artificial in May, and then it waited till December in hospital, which I go back to that 3 days felt forever, but 8 months feels a lifetime.
A lot longer. Wow.
And so then I couldn't take it anymore. So I could go out of the hospital and wait 1B, but I could wait 2 years on the list with that artificial. So
explain that again. So if you're in the hospital, then you're 1A.
You're
Means you're
1A.
at the top of the list.
well, you're on a different list.
Oh, okay.
There
but
was
if
always
you leave
someone
the
ahead of me on the list, but I was on 1A.
Okay, but if you leave the hospital, then you're not as you don't have as good a chance of getting a heart. Is
Well,
that
you go on a other list where other people are out of the hospital waiting. So it depends, where you are. But like you said earlier, it depends. It should matter how critical you are. But having an artificial, I thought I was pretty critical.
As do all the families of all of the people who are on that list.
Yes,
Of course.
it's a tough way to go or tough way to list, hard way to wait. Is that it has to get transferred before you. So while you're waiting in the hospital, you'd see people in your hallway get transplanted, and so it would be hard to
Yeah.
see
So
that.
then what happened? So what'd you do?
So then the other option was there was always an option to go to Scottsdale and wait at Scottsdale Mayo down there. So the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale is we chose that option. So the only way to get there is to either fly, and you have to take a whole team of perfusionists and doctors with you, or you can drive yourself. And we chose to drive ourselves. So my wife just plugged me into the car, and we took off down the highway.
Unbelievable.
So what's it took you 2 days, 3
It
days?
took us about 3 days because we
Yeah.
could only drive about 8 hours a day because my legs would start to get stiffen up, and I couldn't sit in the car for more than 8 hours.
And
Well-
the reason to go down there is because there was a better chance of getting a heart in Scottsdale than in
Well, what I was told was when you went to Arizona, you got the whole state of Arizona if you were in the Mayo Scottsdale, and there's no other hospitals that do transplants
Oh, okay.
in the state.
It
so
increased
you
your
get
odds?
yeah,
Is that a
with
way
the
to look at it?
logistics with the number of people down there. There's just so many more people and bodies running around that you have a
Plus,
better
it's
chance.
winter, so go to Arizona.
And a lot
Yes,
more
I wish I would have went in like October.
accidents and trauma and everything else. So how long did you wait in there at Scottsdale?
Well, it took me 2 weeks to get back into the hospital because I had to go through all the tests again. But I got on the 19th of Martin Luther King Day, and then on basically 5 days later, I had my first offer.
Wow.
And
And
that
was it a
didn't
good
work.
offer?
Nope, it didn't work because it wasn't up to the quality, and thank goodness it didn't work. It wasn't a good heart for me. And so then I had my second offer probably 7 days after that, right after the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was in Arizona, so the next day I had my second offer, and that was same situation. Wasn't a good match once they saw the heart.
Do you know anything about the donor of your heart?
Yes, the third offer came actually 2 weeks after that, and it came on the 19th of February, and after you get to transplant, you should write a thank you letter to the family just to say thank you for your donation. It saved my life, and I really appreciate it. So I did that, and then it took them about 2 months to write back, and they said, we're glad you're doing well and you're feeling good, and you're welcome.
Oh, amazing. Well, you look terrific. So obviously the heart's working well. You're, I assume, on some medication to prevent rejection, but other than that, doing well?
Yes, on anti-rejection for the rest of my life, but that's minimal to what I've been through. And yes, I did meet the donor family. We did meet a year anniversary to the date of that happened.
Oh, man.
It was amazing. It was the most amazing
pretty
thing I've
touching.
been through.
Pretty
Yes,
touching.
very emotional.
Hey, thanks so much for being here. You got a great story, and you look so well, and we're all really happy for you.
Thank you, and for everything you do.
Yeah. Jimmy Dunbar.
That's our program for this week.